Hey, it's Bill Gross, the LA Probate Expert.com, real estate broker here in Los Angeles, California. And I'm really excited today to have a chance to introduce you to, if you haven't met, or to reacquaint yourself with Crystal Hill. And Crystal, well, say hi, Crystal.
Hello, everyone. How are you?
And so Crystal is an attorney and she's located in the Long Beach area. But give us a little background, Crystal, where you grew up and then how'd you get into law and then how'd you get into this particular area of probate law that you're involved with now?
Interesting questions. And since I am a lawyer, I do like to talk about myself. So I will give you the skinny.
Okay.
Let's see. I was born here in Los Angeles, raised in Palos Verdes. I went away to school, UC Berkeley undergrad, Cornell Law School, came back home from the East Coast and started at a larger law firm where we did medical malpractice. I
Hmm.
really did not enjoy that. And so I left that and I went into a smaller law firm where we practiced probate. And that's all we did. Probate litigation and probate. And then from there, I opened my own practice in Beverly Hills, where I also did probate and I also did some civil litigation. I did a little bit of that. And then I was asked to join the court and to assist with managing their probate clinic. The court did have a probate clinic at one time.
Well,
It was actually very popular. But after doing that for a period of time and also doing some family law, I was one of the supervising family law attorneys at the courthouse. I went back out on my own, reopened my law office, the law office of Crystal Hayes and Associates. And I also opened a business called My Legal Team.
right.
Yeah, and that's a group of paralegals that are here to assist self-represented litigants in the area of probate and family law. We use flat fees to do that.
Yeah, and I like that a lot. I think that's what actually drew me to you initially. But before we go there, just to set that up a little bit, you said something that I find interesting, which I think is important, is you work for a firm that all you did was probate and probate litigation. You know, one of the statistics as I started marketing probate, I learned was 95% of cases in LA are done by attorneys who do one probate in the prior 12 months or less.
Mm,
And so I noticed in court, I could see those who were experts like you, and I could see the rest, the vast majority of cases were not.
yeah.
And so you've chosen really to kind of focus in on this. You work for a firm that would focus in on it, and you do now. So tell me why. Is that your experience as well? And what drew you to specialize in one area rather than so many attorneys? You go to the website and they do everything from corporations, DWIs, wills, trusts, criminal.
We call that practicing door law. Uh, Anything that comes through the door, some attorneys will take. That's called door law. And
Oh,
and I do find there are quite a few attorneys in the area of probate that are venturing out, so to speak, or who don't concentrate and practice mostly in that area.
right,
Um, and so we do see that quite often. But there are a good amount of us that are there repeatedly because
right,
that's our area. I decided to focus on probate because I had a personal experience with it before completing law school. And so when I was
mm,
able to find this firm that just focused on probate, it was somewhat of a, I had a connection to it and I enjoyed it. My experience in probate with my family wasn't a very pleasant one. And unfortunately, there are quite a few families who have an experience that's not very positive. And so
correct,
I, of course, wanted to try and assist with that to make it a more positive experience.
right,
And the more you know about the process, the easier it is to get through and the easier it is to manage expectations of the clients. Right?
right,
So if
right.
you know the process, if you know what typically occurs in different scenarios, you can prepare your client for that. And so that leads to a more positive experience. Mhm.
Well, which brings me to how I came to meet you or seek you out was in part as part of your focus on probate and your past experience in the clinic. You were doing pre-COVID live classes at the LA Law Library downtown LA, and I believe you're continuing them now online. I saw you're scheduled to do one tomorrow. I think
Okay.
that you still do them online, right? But These are not you making a huge career out of huge fees from rich people doing probates. For the most part, these are people who can't afford an attorney or went to one and had a bad experience. Tell me how you got there and then what you see happening where you're helping these families at the LA Law Library.
So one of the things that I saw when I was working with the court, I saw a large number of people that were going through the probate process representing themselves, meaning they did not have an attorney.
Dun, dun, dun.
Exactly. And so the process was, of course, slower for those individuals because they had to go back and redo a lot of things.
Yep.
But what I found was interesting in that is some of the people that were doing this, they did not have access to the money that we would think that someone who was going through the probate process would have because they're set to receive a certain estate, right? And so a lot of them were going through this by necessity. They were doing it by themselves by necessity. But what I realized is probate, a standard probate, can be very straightforward, right? It has steps like anything.
Right.
And what I realized by assisting at this clinic was that an individual who's representing themselves can actually go through the process with a little knowledge themselves.
Right.
As attorneys, we like to believe we're indispensable and that our help is necessary. And in certain situations, that is true. There are a lot of complicated situations that can arise in probate, and then I would advise that someone retain an attorney. But because I saw so many people successful getting through it on their own, I thought, why not make the process more efficient in the system?
Right. And when you say on your own, sometimes on your own doesn't mean you do everything on your own. I mean, it's not like you're going to chop down a tree, make the paper, shave out a pencil, and fill out the form by hand on your own. Really, you're providing a kind of an on your own support system. At least that's my experience of having people come to your office. So tell me how that works and how that helps the person doing it on their own, just not really on their own.
Right. Okay. And that's you raise a good point. Not everything you can do on your own, but with a little bit of coaching and guidance, you may be able to get through a significant portion. And then, and then by hiring certain people along the way, you can get through the rest of it. Right. So let me tell you a little bit about how we do it. So what we do here is we have a couple of options for people that are going through this process on their own. One is a coaching option where it's essentially a subscription service and you buy our time, right? Monthly. Cost a lot less than the percentage statutory attorney's fees that
a lot less. Yeah. Can I say a lot less?
Yes.
That's the technical term for it. A lot less. Thousands of dollars less.
Right. But what we do is we meet with you initially. You pay money for the initial consultation. We give you we analyze your case first. I think that's important. Like I said, not all probates are ones that should be done by self-representation. But then we give you the education and you pay a monthly fee. And for most of it, we download the docs for you in our client portal. You can prepare them. We review them. We give you some pointers and, get you through the rough parts. Not everything is self-explanatory. And you represent yourself and you file them. When we get closer to the end of a standard probate, and I keep saying standard because not all probates are standard. When you're dealing with heirs that are contesting anything, when you're dealing with selling property, you don't necessarily consider those standard. But when you get through to the end of a standard probate, one that doesn't include those types of issues, we assist with the final accounting. And
that's the big one. That's the one that I see. And the petitioner doesn't get any proceeds until that accounting is done and approved by the court, correct?
Yes, that is absolutely correct. No, a distribution cannot take place until that accounting is done and approved. And that is something that most self-represented litigants need assistance with. They need to pay someone to help them complete it.
I see it all the time.
And so we charge an additional amount for that, of course, because it's pretty complicated in some cases. And that's how we do it. Yeah.
My rule of thumb, just as an observer, is about 90% of the cases a petitioner could do it on their own, maybe using the services you're offering to expedite it, make it easier, delegate some of the more mundane administrative tasks and the forms and things. To me, that's kind of on your own. About 90%. 10% need an attorney right away. There's warring family issues, there's complications, but 9% could start that. And then of the 90%, about 10% of those, something pops up and they need an attorney, right? All of a sudden out of the blue comes the raging brother who you thought was fine. Now he's upset, or the sister, or the whatever. Now you need an attorney, but you guys are already connected to the file somehow, right? When clients have gone through your My Legal Team, they might start as self-help, and if that kind of alligator pops up in the swamp, you're already involved in the file to some degree. Explain how that process works.
That's a great issue. Yes, so you're already connected to us as My Legal Team, and one of the other things that we do when the alligator pops out of the swamp, when a sister or brother or aunt or uncle, they come forward and they say, look, that's not really the will, or look, we don't want you to serve as the administrator,
right,
or we don't agree with what you're doing, then what we do is we operate as a referral service, essentially. So if my office is available to take the case, the law office of Crystal Hayes Hill, then we offer our services. If we are not, then we try to find another attorney who can assist you and represent you, because at that point you do need full representation.
Right, right. And I always tell people, the reason not to do it all on your own, but to use a service, is the longer you are open, stumbling, bumbling on your own, the more likely that alligator pops out of the swamp. If you can get the thing done, then there's no, I just find the family members, there's more animosity the longer the things goes on, and the more continuances there are, and the more mistakes that the petitioner makes. They're just begging for somebody to get upset and vent on them. Hey, where's my money? It's your problem. I'm going to get an attorney and we're going to take this thing over. Is that just my imagination, or is that what you see as well? There's a timeline to it that you want to get it done quickly.
That happens quite frequently. Yeah. So if the person that's been appointed as the administrator, does end up taking a little bit longer than what the heirs believe it should take before a distribution happens, then they start almost trying to find something to to accuse the administrator of. And inevitably, whether the administrator has been involved in any wrongdoing or not, most of the time they have not, then that heir gets an attorney. And of course, once that heir gets an attorney, everything slows down. The fees go up, right? Because now you've got two attorneys that need to be paid. And inevitably, you usually end up in the same place that you would if that heir had not gotten upset and up in arms, because they just simply don't understand the process, right?
And I've never seen a cockfight other than on a movie, but that's what these probate cases start to turn into. It's like there's two attorneys, there's two litigants, and they're like yelling at each other, and the attorneys are getting paid either way, and the court costs get paid either way. The only people who lose are the two people who are fighting, right? Because they're going to get themselves bloodied and beaten up.
Yeah, and they're going to lose money, right? I mean, the attorneys get paid out of the estate. So the more attorneys that are involved, the more money that's coming out of the estate to pay them. Yeah. So
quick shout out to my favorite of your team members, Stephanie. I know I call her from time to time about different cases or prospects, and she does that. One of the things you guys bring to the party also that helps the self-service person is your relationship with vendors. You guys work with the bonding, which has to get required if you want full authority, to, without getting into all the details of it, it's one of the processes that has to get done in a timely manner to move things forward. Also, sometimes you guys work with advance companies to get the petitioner some money up front if they need it for paying taxes or mortgages or expenses, things like that. So your team kind of handles that, but you have relations with these vendors. You're not strangers or a one-off to them. You have established relations. And of course, your favorite realtor as well, to help avoid some of those problems, right? That's part of the advantage of being an expert rather than just doing one probate your entire life. So tell me about your relationship with, the bonding company and the advance. You guys are there to provide services and help petitioners get. I'm sure they can be solicited by other vendors, but you actually work with ones that you work with day in, day out, and have worked with for years, correct?
Right, and that's very important. What you've just said, that last part of it. The great thing about having a relationship with these vendors, you being one as a broker, the bond company, the newspaper, et cetera, is
Yeah.
that we have relationships with people who've been doing probate for a
Yeah.
significant period of time.
Yeah.
And that's important because one of the reasons why we use you, Bill, is because you've been doing this for a while and you can answer a lot of questions
Right.
for our clients,
Right.
right?
Right.
This is not something new to you. You're not proceeding with, in the dark. You know what's coming typically, right? Because you've done enough of these. And
Yep.
knowledge is power. Knowledge
Yep.
brings security. And so we like to continue those relationships and giving our business to those people because we know they're in good hands. And that's important. We've seen people go off with different newspaper companies, for example, and they're
Yes.
not publication in the right area.
Because they save money.
Right. Right. Because they're saving $100 and they end up having to go through the whole process again. Right.
Yes. I said that's classic.
Savings,
That's the
right?
classic self-help. And they, instead of self-help and using your service to guide them, or me as a broker, I'll even handle that for the client or for the attorney. But on their own, they found a paper that's cheaper, and the paper takes the money and publishes it, but it's just a waste of 2-3 months for the client.
Yes, exactly. And you said it. That's a waste of 2 or 3 months. And then they have to go back and repeat it and spend another, month and a half going through that process. The same thing is true in regards to brokers. When we are dealing with probate, you're dealing with a lot of family relationships. And there is a certain, you got to have a fine touch when you're dealing with that because we want to try and keep these familial relationships intact.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons why we use you. There is
Thanks.
fine touch. We need someone who understands this and who can proceed with the best interest of the family in mind. So that, yeah.
And I think that also goes around to the attorneys that I find the biggest mistake, if I had to pick one way that money's lost by the petitioner, by the family member who starts the process, is when they do pick an attorney, they're going to pick somebody they know from something else, the DWI or their business or something else. I literally certainly weekly, talk to attorneys from big law firms, from big law schools. Maybe they have great practices. They might be highly successful, the world's greatest attorneys in everything but probate, but don't know that in a probate with limited authority, it needs court confirmation, you have to publicize it, you have to do this, you have to do that. They don't know all that, and it's hard to get it across to them. So let alone a self-help person, even going to an attorney sometimes can just be a lot of money and a lot of waste of time.
Yeah, it can be. And that's what we found. So yeah, it's with anything, if you're going to try and do it on your own, you've got to have someone who knows the field, coaching, assisting you along the way, right?
Yeah.
And then if you come across a landmine, you want someone to know enough to tell you, we now need to proceed a different way, right? We now need to go and take a different route. Right?
Now, one of the things that I get involved with is, and I don't think you never spoke about this, is avoiding probate, right? It's not that I want to take bread off your table or avoid business for you, but spending years in probate court watching cases go on, it is heartbreaking to see the family wealth, the family legacy wealth that should be in LA County destroyed by not even just the attorneys, but the fees and the wasted time and the wasted energy. And I always imagine, what were grandma and grandpa like when they scraped together money in the 50s and moved to California and bought a house and 30 years later paid it off and raised their family. Unfortunately, they pass, to watch their grandkids each hiring attorneys, killing each other, eating up half the equity or more. And so I'm constantly pushing people to say, if you own a house in LA County, you got to get a living trust. Now, you're not going to like this line I say all the time, but I say, look, even a bad living trust is better than no living trust.
Exactly.
Right? Get a bad one, and then go to your attorney and say, well, here's my bad one. Can you help me get a better one? At least you're covered until you get it done. But you guys also do living trust or some estate planning. Tell me about your role in that piece of preventing probate as well.
Yeah, we do estate planning. And like you said, it's important to have an estate plan, a trust. And like you hear all the time, a trust avoids probate. So what does that mean? That means your family won't have to go through the probate process. Why is that advantageous? Because not only does probate take a long time, like you said, there are fees associated with it. Let me give you a real life example. An average trust, a revocable living trust, can range you in the area of about 5,000. There are some that are a lot less expensive, some that can be more expensive, right? An average home in California that has to go through the probate process, the statutory attorney's fees that are attached to it range probably in the area of about $20,000, right? And that doesn't include the cost to file, that doesn't include the payment to the probate referee, that doesn't include the publication, that doesn't include any extraordinary fees that may also attach, right?
The anguish, the pain, the going fighting with each other, and all that.
Right, the fighting, the anguish, all of that. And so if you end up paying $5,000 for an estate plan, your family avoids a whole lot of headache and the depletion of the estate you're trying to pass on.
Plus, the medical side. Normally, I'm sure your package includes. I don't know personally, so let me. I do know actually, because part of it is also forgetting the real estate and the money. I got a phone call this week from a colleague of mine where their sister's having some severe health problems. They can't get certain things done because she didn't have any advance directives. Normally when you do a living trust, part of the process is some basic advance directives, correct?
Yes, and so I've had a lot of personal experience dealing with families who did not have an advanced healthcare directive, meaning they hadn't appointed anyone to make decisions when they are unable to make those medical decisions for themselves. I just got through with a 3-year litigated conservatorship case because the individual had a heart attack while at the gym and had not appointed anyone to make the decisions for him. He was kind of in between families, so to speak. And the family spent 3 years litigating the issue of who would make medical decisions for this person. And so the advantage of having an estate plan is it includes that, right? And if that happens, there's someone there that you have appointed or designated to make those decisions. And you may only be in the hospital for a week, right? But during that time, you may not be able to make decisions for yourself. What's going to happen?
I had a case where a lady called me and her, so they weren't married. They've been long time, for whatever reasons from prior divorces, they've lived together for 30 years, but they're not husband and wife legally. So legally, they don't have the status of being a spouse. Unfortunately, the quasi-husband is incapacitated. And the wife, in essence, is trying to find, they have medical insurance that covers him, for being disabled or being whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. She knows he has the medical insurance, but she can't find the policy. So she goes, well, I'll look in the bank account and find out where he writes the check, how the insurance company on it. But because she doesn't have any documents ahead of time for when he's incapacitated, she can't get access to the bank account. The bank says, well, who are you? You don't have any rights. If he dies, then it goes to probate. We'll let you know in a few months. Meanwhile, she said, no, I need insurance now. We need to get this covered right now. Whereas the advanced directives would have resolved all that. And so I just see this every day coming up more and more as people get older. So the important part.
It's the advanced healthcare directive as well as the power of attorney, as well as the trust document itself that would convey or bestow that power upon an individual so that they can financially take care of someone if they're now mentally incapacitated. In the situation that I was telling you about before, the individual actually was unfortunately in a vegetative state. And once that happens, right, there's no way to get him to give the family member that power to take care of things. It's too late.
Too late at that point. And there's nothing you can do. It's heartbreaking. I'm sure you go through this. I tell people, look, you can talk to an attorney, but I'm just going to tell you, it's too late.
Yeah. And so we want to avoid that, right? And so estate planning is critical. It's critical.
Yeah. Yeah, so I get on my soapbox about that and try to push people both for your family wealth and legacy and for your medical and just for your own safety and security. Get it done and get an estate plan done that includes these basic components so that you can avoid those problems. So, well, look, Crystal, it's always a pleasure to see you in court. We don't get to do that much anymore or a quick Zoom and wave hello to at most these days. But you are doing tomorrow your law library class on, I think it's Introduction to Probate. Is that the topic?
So tonight, actually, I have a Ask a Lawyer. I'm on an Ask a Lawyer panel, and it's probate, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, probate and estate planning. And so with that, you can sign up for this class and you can ask an attorney, myself, an experienced attorney, all of those questions that you have for free, right?
Wow.
Actually, it's about $10 to participate in the class, but you're not going to find that anywhere, right? So I do that. I try to do that every other month. And a lot of people find it very helpful. It's very successful. We usually pack the class, so to speak. So that's what I'm doing tonight.
So about once a month, it's Ask the Attorney, and that's through the LA Law Library?
Yes, that's
Okay, good. So I'll put, so this might not be posted till after that, but it's a monthly program. So if you go to the website, you'll see, I saw already you're scheduled for September already is on the website. So I'll make sure we put that in the notes as well if somebody's interested. But you used to do that live, a whole introduction process. That's where I met you originally. That was a fantastic class. I think if you want to learn probate, if ever she does that class again, I'll say, so all the real estate agents I deal with are investors, wholesalers, and you want to learn the timeline of probate, the basics of it, the terminology. I just went there really to generate business, and I got a whole education there in about an hour and a half, and saw her in action. So, and I think personally, I appreciate so much about real estate. It can be about commissions, making money. We really get paid on the value we create for other people. And Crystal, I just want to tell you, the reason I've kind of chased you ever since I met you, business-wise, was I really appreciate and respect what you do as far as helping people. I know it's not the most profitable part of your business, but I see the passion you have for it, and I try to, in my own way, do the same thing. So I just want to say on behalf of the people you help, the people who don't have the time or energy to tell you thank you, I want to say thank you for serving the LA community for people who need some questions answered regarding probate.
You're absolutely welcome. Like you said, I love doing it. And so, everything, it comes back to you. So
I can tell you light up when I talk about it. I see the smile. The main parts of the living trust and all that, I think you do that because you make a living at it. But I can just see you really do like helping people, and it comes across. And people treat you like a rock star in that class when I was there. So, and probably so. So, Crystal, somebody who had some questions for your legal team regarding probate or living trust, what would be the best way for them to get hold of you or Stephanie or whoever in your team would be able to help them?
Yeah, so there are a couple of ways. You can give us a call, 562-479-0900, or you can go onto our website and we have a feature that says questions, and it pops up and you can ask us a question there and we'll do our best to get back to you in a timely fashion. The web address is mylegalteamla.com. That's where we are. So we're located in Long Beach. We're here from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, a block and a half away from the courthouse. So you've got some options.
Well, I think it's a block and a half from the beach. I've been to your office. It's nice.
It's also a block and a half from the beach.
It is nice. I got to tell you, that's a nice office. I wish I had more business or reason to hang out there. Because nice lounge area, cup of coffee, and your staff is very friendly. So definitely have a chance to meet up with your staff. I could take the chance to do that. I'll put the phone number and the website in the notes, so when we post it, you guys can see that hopefully. And of course, if for some reason you don't see it, call me, email me, text me. I'd be glad to pass you on. I communicate with her team pretty regularly. So look, Crystal, it's been a pleasure. Don't know when we'll see you in person again at court. It doesn't sound like anytime soon on the way things are headed, but it's always a pleasure to see you. I'll be watching you tonight on the Ask an Attorney. Thank you so much, though, for taking time to share with people today how they can maximize their family wealth and avoid medical problems or avoid some of these family issues. I really appreciate your help today. Thank you so much.
You're absolutely welcome. Thank you for inviting me and having me on today. I appreciate it.